football in our blood. So he was a huge inspiration to me. I always had a fantastic stepfather that did nothing but support and love me as well. I had two big brothers that also played Division I football. One played for Central Michigan, and the other one played for Kent State. And both got scholarships. So those guys obviously were huge role models to me. They were, motivation, inspiration, and they also beat me up pretty good as a kid. So I always made fun of them, saying, hey, you guys made me tougher and better than you guys. So I appreciate all the licks you guys gave me as a kid.
Okay, when you were in high school, what other sports did you play other than football? Were there other sports that you played?
Yeah, sure, of course. When you're kind of the athlete in high school and you excel in one, obviously you've got some ability to play multiple sports. So I played basketball and baseball, but then baseball was asking or demanding a little bit too much time. My track coach told me that I didn't have to come to practice. I could just come and throw the discus at meets. So I switched out track for baseball, but I was a three-sport guy. Football, of course, is my first and biggest focus, but I love basketball and then track.
Okay, so other than Florida State, were there other schools that you was considering going to? And what were the colleges that reached out to you to play college football?
Sure. When you're going through the recruiting process, and I was an All-American in high school, so I had quite a few offers. And when it comes down to the whole recruiting process, as you probably know, of course, you get 5 official visits. And Miami was number 1 at the time. Florida State was number 2. And then me, of course, being from East Lansing, and my dad being the coach and player at Michigan State, all my family was Spartans. So I was obligated to go take the Michigan State visit. And then I took University of Michigan and Southern California because I'd never been to California. So as an 18-year-old kid, I thought that'd be a fun trip. But, when it's coming down to it, Rashad, Miami was number 1. I was a big Miami fan in high school, and that kind of was my first and only choice at the time. But I thought, of course, I should take my other visits to see what was out there. But I took my first visit to Miami, got down there, and Jimmy Johnson offered me a full ride right when I came in, and I was totally, of course, thankful for the offer, but the campus just did not impress me. And being from East Lansing, where Michigan State is, those Big Ten campuses are beautiful, brick and ivy-covered buildings, and so I was in a little bit of campus shock when I got down to Miami. So I had second thoughts. So the next weekend, I flew to Tallahassee to take my official visit for Florida State, and it was a beautiful campus. There was a lot of attractive co-eds. The weather was beautiful. And then I had Bobby Bowden, who is, the greatest football or coach or college football coach in history, as well as, the best recruiter I've ever had in my life. He told me everything I wanted to hear and told me that I'd have an opportunity to play early. And so that was really attractive as well. So I had one of those gut feelings, Rashad, one of those life-changing moments where you just have an intuition. But I said, I'm going to finish out these visits to USC, to Michigan State. But at that whole time when I was finishing my trip, I knew Florida State was the place for me. And when I got back home, I committed that week.
Okay, so 1988, that was your first year, right, at Florida State?
That's perfect.
Okay, so
yep.
So it's your first year, your freshman year. Your team, it's preseason number 1. A lot of expectations. You're number 1 team in the country, and also that year was interesting because it was known for before the season started. Florida State football team, they did a rap video called the Seminole Rap. Were you part of that video?
Unfortunately, I was, Rashad. And like you said, there was a lot of hype coming into that season, being preseason number 1, and we got a little carried away, I think, with the rap and just, kind of getting caught up in all of that hoopla. And unfortunately, that dream was quickly ruined. That first weekend we traveled down to Miami and got beat pretty bad.
Yeah, 31-0. I mean, that was just not a good way to start. Miami was defending champions, and you lose 31-0. So that's not a good start. But you rebounded. You beat Southern Miss, 49-13. Then talk about, if you remember, Clemson beat Clemson 24-21. That was an interesting game. That's the game Deion Sanders ran back a punt return for a touchdown. Also, Leroy Butler ran on I think it was a fake punt. Talk about that.
But, yeah, prime time, of course, always rose to the occasion. He did return that one. We were wearing all white. That the uniforms broke out the all white. That was a must-win game for us. That was pivotal. And so, thank goodness, prime time took one back for us. And then, of course, when it came down to it, one of the best plays in college football history called the punt Ruski, which we had only practiced a few times that week prior to that game, and not thinking we'd really have to use it or anything. But sure enough, it came down to that play, and Bobby Bowden is enough of a master of having confidence in his players and having confidence in himself and when to call a play like that. Thank goodness that the Butler did it. Leroy took the ball in the Ruski and took it around end, and I think he went about 85, 90 yards, didn't get in the end zone, but got us right up in there, and then thank goodness we finished the game.
Yeah, he ran 76 yards. Leroy Butler set up the field goal.
Was it 76?
Yeah, 76. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was a big game because Clemson, obviously they're a powerhouse now, but back then, they were preseason number 4 in the country, and they was ranked number 3, and your squad was ranked number 10 when you beat them. So that was a big win to beat a top quality team because Clemson was really they were highly ranked at number 3 at the time. So that was a big win. So the next game we want to get into is Michigan State. Obviously you're from East Lansing, Michigan. So talk about that. You beat them 30-7 against Michigan State. Talk about that game.
Sure, of course. It's just a touchback on Clemson, like you said. That was a monster game just because we had come off the loss, we were down, and like you said, Clemson was still being ranked in top 5. That was a huge game for us, and that's totally changed our season back to being positive because it could have gone real bad and downhill quick if we'd lost that. But like you said, the Michigan State with that next game, and that was another thing that attracted me about coming south was it's just a different style of football. Speed kills, and of course we've got speed down here. We've got athletes, and that Big Ten football. They're big guys, and they like to run up the gut and all that good stuff. And as you know, that type of football just isn't playing anymore with the athleticism and speed that we have with players. So they came down and we just took it to them, and we just used our speed, our athleticism, and just really dominated that game from the first quarter to the last quarter. That kind of got us going again. Michigan State still being a big school and coming off the Clemson win. Then we had some momentum when we were rolling through the season at that time.
Okay, let's fast forward to the last game of the regular season. You was introduced as a freshman to the Florida Gators, and your squad won at the time 52-17. Talk about your first introduction to the rivalry against Florida, as your squad won 52-17.
Absolutely, and we got 2 incredible rivalries with, of course, the Gators and the Canes, and I don't think it gets much better. Obviously, we need to pick up the slack here as of late, and I think we're on the right track to get there. But that game was my first, like you said, introduction to that Florida State-Florida rivalry. It definitely lived up to expectations. The hype and the energy in the stadium that day was incredible, and then for us to come out and just dominate them and put them out 52-17. It was a great way to get introduced to that rivalry and then come out with an incredible win.
Okay, then you play in the Sugar Bowl, and this is a great game because your squad was number 4 in the country, and you're going against number 7 Auburn, and you win 13-7 in the Sugar Bowl. Deion Sanders made a key interception, a pickoff in the end zone with 5 seconds left. Talk about that game as that was actually Deion Sanders' last game as a Florida State player. So talk about winning your first bowl game, 13-7 against Auburn.
And like you said, your first bowl game is extremely exciting. And then coming in there and playing against Auburn, 2 top-ranked teams. It was a battle, and like you said, once again, primetime shows up and does what he does in incredibly dramatic fashion. It pulls off the pick in the end zone to ice it and win it for us in the last second. So my first bowl was great. It was in the of course, the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans. Fantastic venue, great city, a lot of fun, and then to top it off with an incredible win over Auburn, which was a great way to end the year. But it was an unfortunate, kind of a bittersweet season, coming in ranked number 1, and having a devastating loss and kind of fighting back. But it really showed the true colors of the kids and my brothers on the team and the coaching staff. That, we weren't going to quit. We finished up darn strong, but just like they said about us a couple years, we finished up the season as the best team in the country. We just weren't ranked number one, unfortunately.
Okay, so now let's fast forward to your sophomore year. Now you started. You're a starter on the '89 Florida State Seminoles squad, and the squad's preseason number 6. But unfortunately, you're off to a bad start. You play against Brett Favre in Southern Mississippi and lose 30-26. Talk about that unfortunate loss against them.
Yeah, and we were ready for the season, and like you said, we're preseason 6, so we were humbled a little bit. So I think we came in hungry, but unfortunately, I think we were looking past Southern Miss. That was kind of a kickoff game in a neutral site, so we were kind of taking it a little bit too light, and looking forward to our next opponents that were, I think, we thought in our heads going to be a little bit more competition. We forgot about a guy named Brett Favre and what he could do, and it's unfortunate. I had a pretty darn good game, and I intercepted Favre, and so that's kind of a neat thing I can talk about when I'm having a beer with a buddy or just meeting folks that are Southern Miss fans. But so I did pick off Brett Favre, had a good game, but unfortunately came out with a loss. So didn't care about personal stats. Once again, a devastating way to just start the season for sure.
Okay, the following week, unfortunately, we lost again. But Clemson, after losing the previous year, now they beat your squad 34-23. So now you're 0-2 in the situation in that scenario. Talk about losing to them 34-23.
Yeah, I think the Southern Miss, of course, we call it the Southern Miss half. With Brett beating us and just coming off that loss, I think mentally, we were defeated. Obviously, we were physically a better team, and they just came in there, ready to play more than we were. So that loss, like I said, it definitely took a toll on us. And we were entering in against a real talented team of Clemson. And I think, if we would have come off a win, I don't think we would have had a loss against Clemson. But that loss hurt us so much that I think mentally we were still just out of it. And we went in there flat. And once again, we suffered another loss. So, like you said, we start off the season 0-2. So it's time to, have a little team meeting, players only. And that's when we said, hey, this is not going to go for the rest of the season. We're Florida State. 0-2 is unacceptable, and it's time to take it up. We held each other accountable, held each other responsible, and we ran the next 10 games, to go 10-0. But anyway, I won't jump ahead of our interview, but we knew that it was time to, change what was going down, or it was going to be a real ugly season.
Yeah, so you guys started when you played LSU, and you beat them 31-21. LSU was ranked 21 in the country, so you definitely got it going after losing the first 2 games. So talk about that win against LSU.
Yep, and like I said, that was pivotal for us. If we would have gone 0-3, it might have gone, no telling, 4-7 or whatever it may be at the end of the season. But instead, like I said, we took a personal accountability. We held each other accountable, and we came in there, obviously, with the mentality that there's no way we're leaving the stadium without a win. And that's what we did.
Let's fast forward to Auburn. You played Auburn later, like a few weeks later, and you beat them 22-14. And talk about that win against Auburn.
Yeah, but, another, obviously, pinnacle powerhouse, a big name, and coming off the win with LSU, it was, something that finally we had a little momentum in, and now we kind of started getting our swag back, and we were ready to play, and we just went in there, and, with the mindset too, like I said, we decided we were going to have a 10-game season after those first 2 losses, and we were going to go 10-0, and, we're off to a good start, came from LSU now, rolling into Auburn, and here we go, we beat them, and we've got our momentum back, and we're going to, see what happens for the rest of the season. So, yeah, that was a big win for us too, just because, like I said, we were rolling at that time, so now we're starting to get our confidence, our swag, and we're coming together as a team.
Yeah, you had a 19-point lead in that game, and they rallied They scored 11 points to get within 22, to 14, and unfortunately time ran out as they drove like the 72 yards in the game, final moments before run out of time at the Florida State 11-yard line. You win 22-14, and Auburn was ranked number 11. Your squad was ranked number 14, so that was a big win. Now you get revenge the following week against Miami. They go into this game, a big game, obviously Miami versus Florida State, and Miami's ranked number 2 in the country. You're ranked number 9, and you beat them 24-10. So talk about that win.
Yeah, this was my first start against Miami, and this was huge for us. Obviously, now we're starting to roll. We've got 2 wins, but obviously Florida State, Miami, it's always a coin toss. It depends on who's meaner that day. I think it just comes down to probably who can have the ball last as well. But this was the game that kind of put me as a player on the map. I was blessed to have a very, very good game against Miami, and then, of course, come out with a win was huge. But I think I can't remember, 15 or 16 tackles. I had 2 interceptions. I caused a fumble, recovered a fumble, and, hopefully that helped us pull out the win. And so that is a real memorable game for me. First beating Miami was fantastic, and then to have a game like that, and then started to get some recognition as a player and some acknowledgement that, I was one of the best linebackers in the country. And so that gave me a lot of confidence as a player as well. And so I kind of rode that wave and kind of never looked back. And, that was the game that made me think, personally and mentally that I could compete not only at this level, but I could excel at this level. And so that was a fantastic game and one of my favorites that I've ever played in.
Yeah, you had 16 tackles and 2 interceptions to go with, what you just discussed. Definitely, you was all over the place. 16 tackles, so it's 2 interceptions. So yeah, that was a big win, beat the number 2 Miami. So now, fast forward to Florida. You play Florida again, and now obviously starting, you beat them again. This second year around, 24-17. So you're 2-0 as a Gator, as a Seminole beating the Gators 24-17. Talk about that game, beating Florida again.
Yeah, Rashad, like you said, I'm 1-0, my freshman year, and then we come in, and then now we beat them again. But of course, always a fantastic rivalry, always going to be heated, it's going to be chippy, and it's going to be a battle. So another real memorable win for us. And then of course, to go 2-0 against the Gators, I started feeling really good and real confident that I was going to go undefeated against the Gators, which is always the goal of ours at Florida State. Not lose to the Gators, but so yeah, that was my second win against the Gators. It's another fantastic win for us, and now, of course, we've got these big wins under our belt. We're feeling pretty good about the team. We're feeling pretty good about the season, other than those 2 losses. And so now, like I said, we've got momentum, and we're feeling good about what's coming next.
Yeah, that win, was your, Florida State's 3rd straight win at the time against the Gators. So, you had a 3-game winning streak because it was a 3rd straight victory in the series against the Gators during that time. So that was y'all had it rolling against them. You had that number. Now let's get into the bowl game against Nebraska, where you dominated. You win 41-17 in the Fiesta Bowl. Talk about recollections of that game.
Sure. That was another one of my favorite bowls. The weather was perfect. It was a great football day. The Fiesta Bowl was a fantastic host, and we go out there, to play Nebraska. And, I'll never forget, Rashad. We come out to stretch and warm up, and they're already out in the field. And we look across the field, and these guys look like monsters. And I'm like, oh boy, this might not be good today. Those big Nebraska kids, and they recruit that Midwest, and that's kind of their MO as a team, is just having those big linemen and just trying to push you around on the line of scrimmage. But once again, we come out and we play Florida State football, and we're running circles around them, putting plays in front of their face they've never seen before, playing Florida State style football. And like you said, we had dominated them, and it was pretty much over. Quickly. We felt so good. Once we got on top of them, we didn't let off, and we just grinded them until the fourth. And it was a fun day. Really enjoyed that ball.
Yeah, that at that time, Nebraska had a hard time against the Florida schools who had speed. Miami had speed. Obviously, your program had speed, and it's like Nebraska. It was like a changing moment a few years later because they had to, recruit a lot of speed to start winning national championships under Tom Osborne, and it was displayed in this game. Peter Tom Willis, he threw 5 touchdown passes and threw for 422 yards. So that's the thing that stood out in this game. But the speed that your team had, that's like Nebraska couldn't keep up. You said how big the guys were, but they didn't have no speed to compete with your athleticism and speed.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, Rashad. You're right on point. And you know what? You hit the nail on the head again. They knew there had to be a change in the guard with their style of football. And I think everybody, I think that might have been a big red flag for a lot of teams around the country. I think that was obvious and apparent during that game. The way we played compared to the way they played, you couldn't keep up with us. The speed kills, and we just put it to them, but they just didn't know what it hit them. So they definitely started changing the way they were recruiting players after that, as well as I'm sure a lot of teams around the country.
Yeah, so let's fast forward to your junior year. Successful, year, your sophomore year. You're starting, and now you're in your junior year. Preseason number 4, you beat East Carolina 45-24. Talk about that game, the first game of the season. Beat East Carolina 45-24.
Yep. Those first games against those smaller schools like that are dangerous, as obviously as Southern Miss showed us the prior year. And so we were a little bit more cautious this time going into that game. They're a tough team, but I think physically and athletically they just couldn't match up with us. So we were fortunate to get out with a win. But they played us real tough. But it was a good start, good warm up game for us, and kind of gave us the gauge of what we needed to work on and improve. But the next week obviously was another game, so we had to start preparing for them. But yeah, East Carolina, it was a challenge. But like I said, I think just our player talent and our speed, it was just too much for them.
Okay, let's fast forward to October 6, 1990. Play against Miami. This time Miami gets the leg up. They get the advantage this time. They win 31-22. And this is an interesting game because your squad was ranked number 2 in the country, and they was ranked number 9 in the country. And you had the longest winning streak going into this game at 14 games. And you just couldn't stop. Defensively, you couldn't stop the running game. Leonard Conley and McGuire had monster games. Over 100+ yards rushing. Overall, you gave up 334 yards on the ground. So talk about what went wrong in that game. Losing to Miami 31-22.
Yeah, those two guys are beasts. And they came out and had monster days. And when you got 2 running backs who go over 100 yards, obviously your offense is running well and you're pumping and things are going to be successful for you throughout the day. So that was just one of those things where they were just more prepared for us that day. And those games are always kind of a 50-50, like I said. You can flip a coin, and they can just take a few different little things that will determine the winner. And that day, their running game was on point, and that really, I think, was the determining factor for sure. So, yeah, it's a disappointing loss. And, those Miami losses always sting, just like the Gators. But, like I said, I was pretty confident about the Gators because we had gone 2-0 by then against the Gators. So, yeah, Miami was still our nemesis. Usually it was game of the century, and it was usually for the national championship further on down the season. But, yeah, that would hurt Rashad. But, it's time to bounce back and get back on track once you suffer a loss like that.
So on October 20th, 1990, you played Auburn. Auburn was ranked number 5 in the country, and your squad was ranked number 7 in the country. Unfortunately, you lose this game 20-17. Talk about that fortunate loss to Auburn.
Yeah, another hype game, of course, and 2 great teams. I think they were ready to have a little bit of revenge on us, and that goes. There's so many things to go into it, Rashad, as you know. It could be a momentum thing, it could be a revenge factor, it could be just a few determining plays. But that one was still quite tight, like you said, with 2017. But they battled harder than us, and they pulled it out at the end, unfortunately.
Yeah, the kicker from Auburn, he kicked his second game-winning field goal of the season. It was a 38-yard field goal with 2 seconds left. and that was the difference because it was made possible by the freshman quarterback from Auburn at the time was Stan White. Fourth down, 21-yard pass to wide receiver Herbert Casey. So that was a pivotal play in that game that made them get the victory.
Yeah. Those were bad memories, Rashad. Thanks for reminding me. I'm trying to block some of these things out for 25 years, 30 years of my life, but I'm messing around. It's amazing sometimes, like I said, just a few different plays. That fourth down play with the backbreaker, of course, and then for the kick. Those always hurt when you have a kick beat you at the end. So, yeah, that was a painful game.
Well, you bounced back against LSU. That's the thing about, Florida State at the time. It's like, Miami, Penn State, Notre Dame. They always played, independent, the schedule played the toughest opponents. And looking at the schedule, you always play a lot of teams from the Southeastern Conference. And you beat LSU the following week, 42-3. Talk about that win against LSU, 42-3.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, Rashad, once again, an excellent point. We were independent at the time, and we weren't scared of anybody. We loved big games. We wanted to be underneath the big lights and on TV, and we thrived in that atmosphere. And that's Florida State, and that's Florida State football. And that's what we do. Coming back against that game, right? We were pumped up once again. A lot of player meetings in the locker room during that week. We knew that this was going to be another pivotal game for us to make sure that we ended up one of the top teams in the country. So we came out, we were ready to play, and we took it to them pretty good that week.
Let's fast forward to again. You handle your business against the Gators again. You beat them 45-30. Talk about that win against Florida, 45-30.
Yep, like you said, always a big game coming in. Well, I'll tell you though, our day, I remember our offense was clicking that day. Obviously, when you throw 45 on the board, you're having a real strong offensive day. But of course, they retaliated with 30 points, so they had some momentum on offense during some key play or drives. But we had their number for the past 2 years. We felt real confident going into this game that we were the better team. And our defense played good late. Offense played great the whole game, and we really put it to them. And I think the score was closer than really the game was, to be honest. But another great game always between the Gators and the Seminoles. But thank goodness, once again, another win against the Gators.
Yeah, Amberly had a big game. He had a career high 147 yards rushing. He scored 3 touchdowns. Casey Weldon threw 2 touchdowns. Lawrence Dorsey actually in this game tied Ron Sellers' school record with catching 30th straight game while grabbing 76 and 71-yard throws. So he was able to contribute and get the job done and win his ball game. And also, this game was the first of the 14 coaching matchups between Bobby Bowden and Steve Spurrier. So it was a start of some, great, rivalry between those coaches and obviously Florida State and Florida. Also, Bowden's matchups would become 8-5-1. But Spurrier win the national championship, in '96 against Florida State. But that was a big win. That was a great run that the squad had against the Gators. Those 3 years, the first 3 years at Florida State. So now fast forward to Penn State. You played Penn State. I think it was the Blockbuster Bowl, and you win 24-17. Great coaches. Joe Paterno, Bobby Bowden, legendary status right there. You win 24-17. Talk about that win.
Yeah, once again, another, big name program with Penn State. Like you said as well, we got Paterno versus Bowden. So there was a lot of things going into this game that were making it, a real attractive bowl game. And we came out once again, though, even though it was a tight game, we felt real confident in it. And once again, I think we were faster than they were, of course. I think we were more athletic. And I think that really, just pushed us over the edge to be able to pull that game out. But a real good game, a good battle between two great programs. But once again, we are the king of bowls, and we prevailed again with another bowl win to keep on extending our current or our longest bowl streak win in college football history at that time. So it was a great win, great for Coach Bowden, and once again that was my third bowl win of my career. So I'm feeling real good about our bowl success and the way we play in bowls. So another fun bowl, and another good end of the season.
Yeah, for Bobby Bowden, going into this game at the time, he was 0-6 against Penn State when he was at West Virginia from 1970 to 1975. So it was his first, personal win as a coach against Joe Paterno. Joe Paterno coached team. So
really, Rashad, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I got info, the encyclopedia that's helpful for me, to go over the stats and information. Yeah, he was 0-6 versus Penn State. While he was at West Virginia from 1970 to 1975. It was his first personal win against Joe Paterno coach team at Penn State. Yeah. So,
yeah, that's very cool. I didn't know that. I'm glad you shared that with me. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, good. I'm glad we got to do that for coach. He deserves it.
Yeah. So now your senior year is here. A lot of hype as always. Preseason #1, Florida State. Preseason rightfully so. We got a lot of talent coming back. 1991 is here. You beat BYU 44-28. Talk about that win to start off the 91 season.
Yes, sir. Yeah, the 91 season. Preseason #1. This was going to be the season, Rashad. We were going to run it, from start to finish. We had the confidence. We had the players. We had the coaches. Our program was so buttoned up at that point. We felt like we were unbeatable. And we were ready for this season to happen after what had happened in '88. And of course, through the next couple of seasons, just suffering from those initial losses that really, ruined it for us in the national championship. We're obviously craving a national championship. That's the main goal for our team every year. And this was going to be finally our year to do it. Coach Bowden deserved it. We deserved it. Florida State fans and Florida State Nation deserved a national championship. So this was going to be the season. So starting out, BYU. I think we played the Kickoff Classic or something like that, which was a lot of fun out in California. Beautiful day, fun game, but BYU just couldn't match up with us. So we cruised through that game pretty easily, and we were ready to start, getting towards, Florida's, Miami, and we wanted to get to the national championship game. This team was primed and ready to go. So we're off to a good start at 1-0 at that point.
Yeah, this game was played on a Thursday in Anaheim, California, and this was a great battle between two quarterbacks, Casey Weldon and Ty Detmer. And the thing about this game, as you know, your squad won 44-28. Edgar Benner had 3 short touchdowns, but the thing that stood out is that Ty Detmer was so great at throwing for at least 300 yards in 24 straight games. He only managed to throw for 229, so your passing defense did a great job of holding him to under 300 yards passing. Talk about that.
Yeah, of course, DBU comes into effect. And of course, we got T-Box, Terrell Buckley, we got Aaron McCord, we've got Leon Fowler back there. And, our DBs were just on shutdown mode for that. And of course, that was a huge challenge with Ty. He was a fantastic quarterback, and obviously, like you said, had some monster games. But we came in, and DBU shut him down. So that was definitely one of the keys to the success of that day.
Okay, so let's fast forward to another, the first test of your squad in '91 was against Michigan Wolverines. Now, this is something that's dear to your heart because you're from the state of Michigan. The thing is that you were #1 and they were #3. They had the great matchup between Terrell Buckley and Desmond Howard, who would go on to eventually win the Heisman. But you came in there into Ann Arbor, you put a half 100 on them, 51-31, man. Impressive performance. Talk about that big win against Michigan.
Yeah, that was the 6 days. One of my favorite games in Rashad. Like you said, being from Michigan and really having my whole family from East Lansing, being Michigan State people and Spartans. We had a great animosity for the University of Michigan. So I had all kinds of extra incentives and hype inside of me. But obviously, like you said, we're 1, they're 3. It's Florida State, Michigan, on ABC with Keith Jackson in the big house. And it was another perfect football day. Beautiful, crisp, sunny skies. And right off the bat, they try to throw to T-Buck's side with Desmond. And T-Buck steps in front of it. And and takes it into the end zone for a pick six, and that was the start of the day. And we knew right from that play that it was going to be our day. I mean, you could just tell the electricity. We had the momentum, and we weren't going to let that game get away from us.
Yeah, and also featured in this game was Charlie Ward. It was a couple of trick plays that Bobby Bowden had on his sleeve. A crocodile play in which Charlie Ward flanked left, then took a long lateral from Casey Weldon, and threw back to Weldon for 29 yards. And then fake field goal for a touchdown from William Floyd. So did a lot of trickery to offset Michigan. That was just an impressive win because Michigan wasn't used to giving up that many points at home. 51 points. That was just crazy at that time. But it showed you how great your squad was, talent-wise. Beat them at the Big House in Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Yeah, sir. Like you said, 51 points. It was the most points ever scored on them in the Big House at that time. So you're right. They weren't used to it. They were in a little bit of shock, but they weren't used to a team like Florida State. And when you have a player like Charlie Ward that's so talented, you have to get him involved somehow. And Coach Bowden obviously is a master of trick plays and strategy. And when he pulls out a play like those, it's just a beautiful thing to see. And we had once again, Michigan was an incredible team, talented, big, strong, and we knew that we had to play a little bit of trickery and a little bit of Florida State football to make sure that we kept them on their heels and that we could shock them a little bit. So that's what we did with Charlie, of course, and Williams going in on the big field goal. It was huge for us, and it was just a magical day. And like you said, to be able to go up there 1-3 on ABC and put the most points on them in the Big House ever, it was just a game to remember for the rest of my life, for sure.
So the following week, another big game. This is a time where Syracuse was really good. They were ranked number 11 in the country, and you beat them at home in Tallahassee 46-14. So now you got it rolling. You got two big wins against two top 12 opponents. Michigan, you beat them by 20, and then you go back home and you blow out a talented Syracuse team led by Carruthers Ishmael 46-14. Talk about that one.
Yeah, sure. Like you said, we're rolling at this point. We're feeling really good. We're healthy. Our confidence is high. The locker room energy and just the attitude. Everyone's firing on all cylinders, and we're feeling real good about the season at this point. But of course, like you said, Syracuse was a real good team at this time. They come down and we put a hurting on them again, though. And like I said, we were rolling, and we weren't going to let anybody get in our way. And we weren't going to make the same mistakes as looking past an opponent or anything like that we had done in the past few years. So we were ready every week in this season. And for them to come up here and play in the heat and everything else, it was a good game, but we were ready, prepared, and like I said, we weren't coming out of there without a win.
Carruthers Ishmael was known as the missile, and he definitely showed why he was the missile. He ran for a 95-yard touchdown kickoff return to score. It was the second touchdown, and they had a 14-7 lead. And then all of a sudden, your squad exploded for the next 39 points that led to 642 yards of offense. So including 3 touchdowns by Casey Weldon, including a 50-yard touchdown pass to wide receiver Shannon Baker. So like I said, you had it rolling, and that was another impressive win back-to-back against common ranked opponents, Michigan and Syracuse.
Yeah, you got a player like Ishmael. He's going to get his plays in a few, but that's something you have to kind of just deal with and understand that's going to happen. But like you said, our defense stepped up, and we pretty much shut them down. So it was great defense today, and then of course our offense is always running on all cylinders, and they were clicking and they were scoring points left and right. So yeah, that was a great day for us for sure, both offensively and defensively.
Another game I want to talk about is LSU. You beat them 27-16. You handled your business against them, and talk about that game in Tiger Stadium.
Yeah, that place is one of the loudest, most abrasive stadiums I've ever played in. But their fans are rough, they're mean, and but they love their Tigers. So I understand passion and things of that nature. But that almost was a pouring gas on our fire. That we were ready and hyped for that game anyway. But then you have these unruly fans, and we loved going on the road. We were road killers. We would travel anywhere and play anybody. We didn't care, and we took pride in that, going into other people's houses and just beating them down. And so we didn't necessarily beat them down. That was a fantastic football game. But considering the environment and what we were dealing with and being on the road, to come out with a win was huge for us. And we just played real tough that day. We just pulled out a win against a real good team.
Okay, so let's fast forward to obviously the game of the year during that time was Florida State Miami, number 1 versus number 2. Talk about that preparation aspect of getting ready for that game. It was such a hype game. The game of the year obviously is known as Wide Right Part 1, and you should have won this game. The squad was up 16-7. It's just that you did not score a touchdown, you kicked field goals. But talk about the preparation aspect. Let's talk about the game in general. Keith Jackson doing the game. High noon at 12 noon, and Bob Greasy. Talk about that game.
Yeah, this was it. Like we all know, and like you said, this was really. This was truly the game of the century, and to just determine the national champion. It wasn't going to be the bowl game at the end of the year. Whoever won this game was going to be the national championship. We both knew that. The week leading up to this, it was one of the most intense weeks of practice that we had ever gone through for sure. But it didn't need much hype from our coaches. We knew the expectations that our coaches wanted, the expectation that we had for each other, and then the importance and the intensity of this game. It was enough build-up just through that it was going to be an incredible game. But then you have all the media and all the hype and the fans and just everything leading up to it. That week just made it into, such almost a surreal environment. The energy was amazing, and just the kind of football game that you dream of playing in as a little boy. And this was the one. And like you said, we come in, and of course we know it's not going to be easy. It's Miami, Florida State. It's a battle, and it comes down to a field goal. And I can't remember what it was, Rashad. You probably know better than I. I can't remember 23 or 26 yards, or it was within 30. And we kick it wide right when we lose the game by 2 points. So that one was a heartbreaker. That was devastating because we knew that was our national championship. We had set it up. The offense took it down there and set it up for us to win in the last second. And then unfortunately our kicker missed the wide right. So we suffer another wide right. We got to live with that. And there goes our national championship vote.
Yeah, it was Jerry Thomas. He kicked a 34-yard field goal with 25 seconds left. Yeah, it was 34 yards. Yeah. And the thing about it,
34, okay.
Yeah, and the thing about it is that it seemed like they just decided to go for the field goal. It seemed like you could have scored for a touchdown. You could have went into the end zone. I understand, it's easy, second guess, but at that time, where you had the ball at with that, great offense that you had. Now, Miami had a great defense. Your squad had a great defense. What you brought to the table yourself. But it's just that maybe they could have went into the end zone. You think if you could turn back the hands of time, they should have attacked the end zone instead of being conservative?
That's one of those things, like you say, Rashad. You can always, second guess a call or a play here or there. I've got total faith in our coaches and what they wanted to call. And 99% of the time, the kicker makes that kick. We run off into the field and celebrate. We take it in, and we're on our way to win a national championship. Unfortunately, 1% of the time, a kicker, just unfortunately misses, and it happens. And it's the fact of football, and it just happened to be that 1% that just brought it down that day. So I have no regrets as far as what our coaches did or anything like that. That was just one of those things that happens in football.
Yeah, and the thing about your squad, defensively, obviously, you're a defensive player yourself. You held Miami. You had a quick strike offense led by Gino Torretta, Kevin Williams, Horace Copeland, Lamar Thomas. They were very explosive. Coleman Bell, and you held them to 7 points. And the key to this game was the field goal that Carlos Welter made to make it 16-10. It was from 45 yards out. he nailed that field goal, and then the key to that game that gets overlooked was the fourth down play to Horace Copeland on 4th down and 6, I think it was 4th down, and Terrell Buckley tackled him, but it's like he was wide open before he got tackled. That was a key factor because if you stop them right there, the game's over. You win 16-10.
It's over, right?
Yeah.
I've watched that game numerous times, and once again, you're right on point. I've watched that play, and I'm like, dang, that one play right there, and T-Buck, there was some cushion on him, and he just happened to catch it right for a first down, which once again, 9 times out of 10, T-Buck doesn't let that happen. Unfortunately, that play just had a success on it to keep that drive going. Yeah, like you said, to have so much offensive talent on the field, both Miami and Florida State, for that game to come down to a field goal, it's kind of ironic, but it was two good defensive teams that down the field fighting and grinding, and unfortunately we came out with a loss. So once again, that's football, and you gotta fight through that stuff.
Did you get a sack in that game or interception?
Yeah, I got a couple sacks in that game.
Yeah, you always played well against Miami.
Nope. What's that, Rashad?
No, I said you always played great against Miami. Like in the '89 game, you had 16 tackles. Yeah, What made you just bring out the best against Miami? I know it's a rivalry, but you always had great games against Miami. Talk about that, just playing well against them.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I appreciate the compliment. And there's one thing, for some reason, that game is just so special and so hyped. And just the energy, it just did something to me. And, I try to play big in all games, but, they say big-time players play big in big games. And I was blessed to be able to do that against Miami and had some really good games against, of course, Florida and LSU, and Clemson's and some other good teams. But for some reason, that Miami game just brought out the best in me, and I was blessed to be able to have some real good performances in both those, all 3 of those.
Okay, so now you go from that game to play against the Gators, and unfortunately, this is your first loss in your senior year. You lose 14-9. Talk about that game against 2 top 4 opponents. Top 5. You was ranked number 4. They was ranked number 5. You still had an outside chance, maybe at a national championship, but unfortunately, you lose to Florida by a score of 14-9. Talk about that game.
Sure. Yeah. That would have never been a close game if we would have hit the field goal against Miami the week before. That game broke our back. It devastated us mentally, and we wanted the perfect season. We wanted to run it 12-0. We wanted to win the national championship and have just that kind of an ending for Coach Bowden and for the Seminole Nation. And so for that to be that big of a letdown after that loss, we were mentally broke down. Physically, we had a lot of injuries against Miami in that game. I mean, that was just a battle from the first second to the last second. It just took everything out of it. But like I said, if we would have won that game, we would have gone on to beat the Gators, no problem. I guarantee it, and we would have won the national championship. But with that loss, having that much weight on us physically and mentally, it was just it was going to be a tough place to play in the swamp, and to be able to pull out a win. And we were right in it into the tail seconds, and really had a chance to win it. But I think the time ran on us, and unfortunately, that was my first loss against the Gators. So it was a painful couple of losses there to the Canes and the Gators. But we still had a fantastic season, and we were blessed to be able to make it out and have a lot of great victories. But unfortunately, our national championship hopes were diminished, and we had to be in the top 5 again for the last 4 years. I think I was always in the top 5, but still, that number 1 national championship evaded us again. So that was a huge, tough loss, definitely.
Yeah. So now you go to the Cotton Bowl. You play Texas A&M, number 7 versus number 9. Your squad was ranked number 7. They were ranked number 9. Now, this game was a very defensive battle, very defensive struggle. You win 10-2, so you end your career as a Florida State Seminole with a win against Texas A&M. Talk about that game.
Sure. Yep. We were fortunate to be invited to another fantastic bowl, Cotton Bowl. Being in Dallas, the weather was cold. It was kind of a crummy football day, and like I said, we were still hurting from those two losses. We felt, of course, we should have been in the national championship and playing for the big ring, and instead we're playing against Texas A&M in the Cotton Bowl. So we were there, obviously. We don't lose bowls, so we were there to win a bowl game. But just with the performance, you can tell that we definitely weren't playing to the top of our abilities. I don't think we came in, and of course we pulled out the win. But I think just from not being able to play for the national championship, we were a little bit checked out, but we were still good enough to beat a real good Texas A&M team. And like you said, and I was fortunate enough to end my career with a win in the Cotton Bowl. So it was a nice finish to a real good season.
Okay, so yeah, that was like I said, defensive struggle. You went 10-2. Okay, so now your career at Florida State is over with. Let's talk about the NFL. Your NFL time in the NFL. What round was you drafted in the '92 draft?
Yeah, I went as a free agent, Rashad. Free agent to the Miami Dolphins. So signed with the Dolphins. Went through camp, and I was released on the last cut. But then I went to then the Dolphins re-signed me, and so I got some more time in with the Dolphins. And then I was released again. Went to the CFL, played in the CFL for a year, and then came back, tried out for the Atlanta Falcons, and was released on the last cut for the Falcons. And I decided that I regret that I look back on now as an old man. I should have stuck with it and try to stay in the league for at least a few more years. But I felt like it was time for me to transition at the time back into normal life and start my professional career. And that's when I got into medical sales. And so I've been doing medical sales now for about the past 25 years. And now I'm currently employed with a company called MDVIP as an executive director for health systems. So the NFL, is one of those things, Rashad, you dream about it when you're a little shorty and playing Pop Warner and playing out in the backyard with your boys and making or pretending like you're, Butkus or Walter Payton or whoever it may be. And then, one day you're wearing an actual Miami Dolphins uniform and you're looking in the mirror and, it's one of those kind of surreal moments. So I got to fulfill my boyhood dream and get to that level. Unfortunately, it didn't last as long as I would like to it. But I'm just blessed that I made it out with minimal injuries, a fantastic career, great brotherhood with some of the best friends that I could ever hope for. And of course, being able to be coached by some of the best coaches in the country and in football of all time. I had Bobby Bowden as my head coach. I had Mickey Andrews as my defensive coordinator. Wally Burnham was my linebacker coach, who was incredible. And then I go to the Dolphins, and I've got Don Shula as my head coach. And so I was blessed to be around some incredible just men, coaches, father figures that really mentored me and had a huge influence on my life. It really, definitely provided a path and I think a successful attitude